Welcome. You are at our, I just learned, our sixth community conversation. I'm Mark McNeese, this is Tim Salters, this is John Stangle. We are running for City Council, and we are having a community conversation with a group of people here at Gracie's, back where we started this. When did we start this? In
February.
February of earlier this year. Some of you have stuck with us the entire time, and we really appreciate it. We picked up a lot of momentum on Facebook Live by doing these events. That's enough about me right now. Of course, I'm running for City Council at large, as the fancy shirt says. And then I'll give it to Tim, and then we'll go to John, our special guest.
Tim Salters, I think you probably know who I am, but one of the things that we want to do to incorporate is really reaching out to as many people as we can. It was really important to us to be able to get as big a base as we could, because people are busy. They're active. Obviously, in summertime, there's a lot of things that are going on. So by doing this Facebook Live, we're able to reach a lot more people. We do have a nice crowd here tonight. But if you've got a question, just post underneath there, private message us. We check that throughout the evening, and everything is going to be okay. We'll get to those questions. And we're really excited that you're a part of this. We're excited to do this. Communication is a really big thing for me. It's very important for me. I think a lot of our problems can be fixed simply by communicating better. It's something that I try to do at home. It's something that I try to do in my job. And it's something that I want to see more in our government. And by doing little things like this, I really think it kind of opens up everybody's eyes, and we can ask questions that we might not feel comfortable with in a maybe a more professional or more, I don't know, kind of, how would you describe the City Hall atmosphere? It's kind of
More open, transparent. We want to be more open. We want to be more transparent. We want to be more user-friendly.
User-friendly is probably the best term, because you can go into a setting like that and you just don't feel like you can ask a question, or maybe, how am I supposed to ask a question? Here, the forum's completely open. You can ask any question you want. You can ask it any way you want. And that's how we want to, because easy questions asked can get easy answers, and then we can get to a solution.
So if you see me disappear and go behind the camera for a brief moment, I'll be checking to see if there are questions out there. John.
Hi, I'm John Stangle. I'm running for City Council in District 3. I'll be new to the City Council if I get elected, but I've got some great ideas that I want to implement into the city. I just feel like the city's not living up to its potential. They got some great assets here in the city, and I think it could be a lot better, and that's why I'm running for City Council.
So at this point, we'll talk about little things that are kind of going on in the city, some of the things that we're concerned about, some of the things we've heard that people are concerned about, and then we will take questions as we kind of go through that. Mark, as we've been talking throughout these, it's been 6 different community conversations. We kind of hit the ground running in January. What are some of the bigger things that you think or you've been contacted about?
So a number of the things that we've been talking about. One, we've talked about the walkability of the city, being able to walk in between different locations, not just for exercise, but for purpose. We have a number of individuals that walk to their work and do those things. That's one of those issues. Another issue we've been contacted, I know you have, and you've fought this issue a little bit on the city on the city council, is the fire department, where we're going to go in the future with that, what's happening there. Currently, we kind of run at a deficit, not kind of, but we run at a deficit each year, how we would address and fix that over time. And then, public safety and our parks, of course, have always been one of those things. And John's a public safety person, and you and I both enjoy the parks, and seeing those continue to grow or change and evolve into a more user-friendly type of city issue is better too. Also, one of those things that we talk about at my work all the time is the efficiency of business, efficiency of government, efficiency of all those different things. And I know that's one of your specialties as well.
Yeah, and one of the things that Mark hit on there, and that's something that I'm really big on, that quality of life thing, it's kind of the buzzword right now, but when he hits on it, like parks and walkability of the city and just amenities that people are like, man, it is really nice to be here. We do have those things. We're very blessed as a person that spends probably 6 of the 7 nights a week in one of our parks. There's a lot of great things to offer here, and sometimes we don't really promote those things real well. We talk about those things. I mean, there are some wonderful things here in the city of Vincennes, and all you have to do is kind of open your eyes and look around. And you've got to start thinking, all right, so we've got this. Well, what's something else? What's what's something we need to improve on? What's something that we don't have that we can kind of help bring somebody in or improve a neighborhood on? And those are the things that we have to look at, building neighborhoods, enticing people to be here, because, and this is something we've hit on before, people aren't moving to areas for jobs, they're moving to areas for quality of life issues, or I like the way this looks, I like the people that are here, I like this park, I like this walkway. And it's kind of a whole different economic mind shift change. And I know Mark and I have hit on this a lot, me being a former econ teacher, Mark really promoting things from the Chamber of Commerce. But that's the way that you've got to kind of change your mindset before, where it was, what kind of big business do you bring in to change the population, to now, what kind of amenities that you bring in, or what kind of amenities do you build up to be able to do that. And that's something that we've really preached as we've gone on. And I think we've really got huge opportunities. If you look around, some of the big improvements that you've seen in our park specifically, look at the Riverwalk. It's fantastic. It's a wonderful place to be. We've got most of our festivals that go out there now. If you look at Four Lakes Park with the splash pad, I mean, I think that's a great template for other parks in the city of Vincennes. Improvements in simple things like taking old worn out equipment that was at Gregg Park, and we've changed those things up. But those things are, you can see those things are just amazing. Kids are there all the time. But the things that really aren't as like kind of eye-catching, just simple, drive down a road that's redone. You might not notice it because your car's not bumping around, or you're not hitting a pothole because that's what you expect. It should be that way. Those are the things that are really important. And being able to take care of those things. A drivable city is a great city. A walkable city is a great city. And those are things that we really need to focus on and improve on. And we've done a good job, but we can continue to do a better job.
So I'm gonna ask John a question, and I'm gonna look at some things here. I want him to explain to you his district, what District 3 looks like, and what are some of the bigger issues in there. And I'm gonna check and see if there's any questions. Again, this audience, if you have questions, please just raise your hand. We'll stop and answer any question along the way to the best of our ability. And if we don't know, we'll tell you we don't know. I'm not going to give you a big fake answer. It's one of those things. So John, go ahead and talk about District 3 if you would.
Well, District 3 is it's a working class district, low middle class to lower income families. It runs from Shelby Street to Willow, from 6th Street to 15th Street, and on out to Maple Park and Presidential Estates. There's a lot of different families that you can run into in District 3. One of the main concerns in District 3 that, after talking to some people, that I found is the infrastructure, the curbs, the streets, the sidewalks. They've complained about that a lot. District 3 is a relatively safe area. Of course, I think Vincennes is always a pretty safe area. We don't have a lot of violent crimes, which is one of our assets to bring people here to Vincennes. I think it's due to our police department, hardworking officers on the department.
John, how long were you on the police department?
I was on the police department 34 years, retired as a lieutenant.
Yeah.
So I know the town pretty well. But we have a lot of petty crimes. I think the petty crimes stems from maybe, we do have some drug use here in the sense that I think kind of stimulates the petty crime. But other than that, we don't have a lot of violent crime. Can't remember the last time we had a violent crime.
Not on every bit of wood we
Yeah,
can find.
that's right. Yeah. But I think that's an asset to bring people here to this community because it is a safe community.
It was listed as one of the top 10 safest in the state of Indiana.
It was. Yes, it was. And I feel like District 3, we get some infrastructure built up. People want to move here to District 3 and invest in some homes there, get it built up for pretty much. It's not bad now, it's pretty decent. I live in District 3 and I enjoy my neighborhood.
One of those things that we were asked about a lot, and particularly my wife asked me this question. She goes, "You like all this stuff, how are you going to pay for it?" There's always the question of how you're going to pay for these things. One of those, I'm more of a long term. I mean, the city of Vincennes has been here for 200, I want to say 81, 82 years. I may be wrong on that. Somebody out there will correct me. And I plan on it being another 285 years. So we have to bet on the long haul. So one of those things is you build a tax base. And building a tax base takes sometimes investment. It takes sometimes some hard choices. And one of those things that we've done recently that looks as if it's going to pay off, even though the naysayers said it wouldn't, is the old redevelopment of the Hart Street property, the Hart Street Kmart property. We've seen a multi-million-dollar investment by the redevelopment commission, which I'm happy to have sat on for the last 8 years. And then the investment into Main Street that would lead out to the schools. And what has happened after talking to the developer the other night, without those improvements that we made, those simply wouldn't have happened. And they're not coming in and asking for tax abatements. They're going to come in, they're going to build nice buildings, and they will pay property taxes. Those property taxes then go to help pay for retention of police officers and to help pay and make up the difference in the fire department, and help pay to pave our roads and do our sidewalks. But we have to do a number of things like that. One, we find out a way to bring business in, take some chances, and this one really paid off. But we also take some chances in neighborhoods. And we do that by improving sidewalks, improving lighting, and making sure that the streets are safe. And we were having a conversation just before, in particular in the historic district. I know that Brian and I are going to do a little talk about the historic district. Both of us live in there, and Brian Grove is running. A lot more carrot, a lot less stick. And when I say carrot, there may be an availability to the city council to set aside some money to help with historic properties. There may be a way to help improve alleys and improve sidewalks and improve off-street parking, and there could be even some zoning twitches or moves that we can make to make that a little easier too. That builds our tax base too. As we talked about, as the city looked to expand its borders through annexation. Annexation didn't work. Don't know if it will in the future or not. So when it doesn't, good, bad, or indifferent, you better look at a way to improve your tax base within the borders that you have. And the borders we have, we better take care of. So we can raise the assessed valuation, maybe get some people to build. And I know we've torn down a few homes in the blighted areas of our community. Maybe we can get somebody to build back on it. That's the best way to improve our tax base and improve those neighborhoods.
And I think about that. I think the example that you're seeing in the Kmart property, the old Kmart property area, we're going to see all this investment here. Main Street, Four Lakes, all right, Vigo School. This is a great example. You're really seeing kind of a neighborhood being built up, and it's not just the city. You're seeing private investment from businesses. You're seeing the schools, and you're seeing everybody kind of getting on this idea of what can we do. And how do we improve our city to make it better, not just for us, not just for our families, but for our friends and for our neighbors, because that's what this is all about. And we have to continually ask ourselves in elected positions, and people go in for these positions, not, well, what can you do to better the city? The city should be asking, what can we do to better you, your neighborhood, your household, your school area, and how do we do those things? And when we start to kind of change that mindset, then good things start to happen. When groups start to work together and start communicating better, good things start to happen. Out there in the old Kmart property, there's a lot of good things that are about ready to happen. And we had one big announcement last week, and there's going to be big announcement after big announcement. The Main Street, phase 1, it's about ready to be done. Here, a couple weeks, it'll be finished. And that's going to open up a whole new artery into the city.
So let's be technical about finished. School buses will
be able to go.
School
and
buses
that's the big important thing for me, is school buses are going to be able
School
to go
buses will
through
be able
there.
to get
Very
there.
important to me.
That's an important job to be
School
able to
buses
get
will be
through.
able to get there, and then over time, by the end of the year, it'll be available to everyone. I think the cars will be able to drive on it shortly after school buses, but there's sidewalk work that needs to be done, it'll be open to ensure that our kids get to school safely.
And that kind of ties in, then you look at the Four Lakes project. And so now we got the splash pad out there, the improvements to the parking lots in those areas, for the ball fields. But then you see the school investment, tie that in, and there's a huge energy right there in that neighborhood. And you saw it with the remodel of the Tecumseh School. There's an energy in there, and now businesses are interested in being there. Families are interested in moving there. And when you all start to do these things, it kind of compounds. And there's really a buzz in the city of Vincennes. There's an excitement that ever since I've been here, I haven't really felt this kind of excitement that we're seeing right now. You're seeing investments on Main Street. You're seeing investments on 2nd Street. One of the things that I'm most excited about is the Lofts project that's coming. So you're going to see the grain silo is going to be torn down, and you're going to see this complex come up. It's going to be beautiful. But the thing that people forget the most about is there's 22 family housing units that are going to be built all over the city of Vincennes because of this project. That's a game changer for us, because one of the biggest needs that we have is housing. And you're starting to see this momentum. So now the question is for us, what can we do to help people continue this investment? Not what do they need to do for us? There's nothing you need to do for us. What do we need to do for you to make this easier, make this better?
Tim, there's some great assets here. We've got a great hospital. All of our schools are top-notch. They're high-tech school buildings now. We've got a university here. We got major highways going all 4 different directions. And whether you like the railroad or not, and I hate waiting on a train, but that's a major asset, having a railroad come through this town. And you know, we need to utilize all that. It's good quality jobs here, and get people to come here to work these jobs. We need housing for them.
I think one of the things that Mark and I have talked about too, John kind of hit on this, like we're kind of in a really good spot as a city because people don't really want that big city feel anymore. They don't want to have to wade through traffic. They don't want to have to, I don't know where I'm at. I don't know what turn I need to make here. How do I get here? I like to be in a place like I need to be somewhere. I can leave 5 minutes and be there. I want to go to a park. I know it's not going to be too crowded. I know I can go here. It's going to be great. I want to be next to my family. I want to be near neighbors that I know, or I've kind of grown up with, people that I graduated with, you know, friends that graduated with me. They're still here. There are a lot of articles, and you see a lot of people talking about it in cities around our size that are just booming with economic development because people want to be in this kind of size of city.
We need to do more to make that happen.
Yes, of course.
So Tim, did I hear you right that you said that there are 22 other housing opportunities?
Yes.
They are tied to that?
Yeah.
22 other houses, single-family homes.
Single-family homes.
So it'll be built on empty lots throughout the community based off of this project, the Lofts project. That's the real winner here. And the RDC owned that property for a short bit. We were the pass-through organization and moved it on. We're going to move it on. But that work at the RDC just needs to continue. And I'm super lucky that I have some great people that I've worked on there with that have been willing to take a little bit of some public scrutiny to go forward and move these projects forward. And that's always the toughest thing is, you know, in this day and age, where we are on Facebook Live, we use it to our advantage, but we also get beat up for those kind of things.
So those 22 homes, single family homes, is there an income qualification there? I mean, do you know that? I mean, has that been determined yet?
There are some it is federal tax credits that allow this thing to happen, so there are some guidelines that will be there. What we have been told, and now I'm quoting straight from here to there, is that so a police officer currently in the city of Vincennes with a family member at home would qualify for this one.
Okay.
So those income levels and that type of person, those type of people that have those type of jobs,
So blue collar workers.
would
Yeah.
qualify, which is what we have in a great majority of it.
Right.
It sets up really for our wheelhouse of the demographic of our city. And one of the biggest needs that we've had, Mark can speak to this more than I can, because I know that this is a big issue, is just finding housing. Because I know RDC was big on trying to find, well, do we build up areas where we can set up developments and things like that? Because that's a real big need in our city, is affordable housing. So a project like this, with the way that it's set up, it's right in our wheelhouse for those families that need affordable housing. So those 22 homes that are going to be built, I mean, to me, that's a game changer. Because that's a big need that our community needs. And now it's going to be here, and it's going to be here relatively shortly. And that's just a big injection into the arm, where these 22 properties were just there. And now they'll be homes.
Let's talk about it. Our unemployment rate fluctuates from, I'm looking out here in the crowd because I think somebody does, but it goes from 3.2% to 4 something all the time. That's where it fluctuates. Right now we're at the lower end. Fully employed, according to the federal government's 5%. You know, and so if you really break down the numbers, in Knox County we have 39,000 total population. Throw out over 65 and under 16, that leaves us 19,000 employable people. We actually employ, we have 22,000 jobs. We actually bring more people into our community every day than we have jobs here, or than we have actual workers. So I think the goal a long time with me at the Chamber, and a long time with our Development Corporation and some others, has been to try to find a way to get those people to live here. You know, to pay taxes here, to go to our schools, to visit our churches and donate. Those are keys to me. So housing, there's no place, they have to be able to find a place to live. And a lot of those jobs that we're talking about that they're coming into work will pay anywhere from $12 to $17 an hour. And so you got to find homes that'll fit within that range. And I think there's some opportunity within the city council, and I think there's some opportunity with the RDC, and then opportunity with development and the mayor's office to really partner together with other organizations in our community. We have PACE, we have some other ones that have gone into housing over time. They developed Ivy Lane, to increase our available housing stock so people will have a place to live and they don't have to drive in every day. They actually live here and be a part of our community, which is what I know I want. I mean, we've dropped in population over the last few years. We're down below 18,000 for the first time since 1930. And that's devastating. Population loss is 2% according to the U.S. Census Bureau. We've lost more than that in the last 10 years. We've lost about 6%.
When we get people here, we get the jobs here. And, you know, these universities, they're producing thousands of new potential citizens every year, intelligent citizens, and possibly stable.
So John said something exactly right. When we have those populations, what that trend has shown. Go ahead and talk about it.
Yeah, and one of the things we see trend-wise, and I can kind of speak from this from the school aspect, is we're starting to see bumps at our lower levels. Specifically, let's talk K, 1, 2, 3. We're starting to see bigger class sizes, which is a good indicator that something good's happening because people want to stay here. People want to have their kids here. People want their kids to go to school here. And it's not just in the VCSE. You're seeing that in South Knox. You're seeing that in North Knox. You're seeing it in Rebay, too. And you're seeing numbers go up, which means there's more families here and people want to be here. So I always kind of counter Mark's point when he's like, well, we had a big population drop. I'm like, right, but that population drop has stopped, and we're starting to see the trend go in the direction that we want it to see. And those numbers and those kids coming to school, they're there. So now the question is, how do we keep the momentum going? How do we make sure that people are like, you know what, I don't want to go somewhere else. This is where I want to be. This is where I want to stay for that whole school career. And we've got a lot of things that we're able to offer. And like I said, it's that excitement that's in the air because there are good things that are happening everywhere. You just got to look. Now the question is, how do we improve on that? How do we make that better? How do we make sure that people even know about it? Because there's so many good things that are happening. Sometimes people don't know because we all get in our little zones. Like, this is my area, I'm going to focus on this, and that's it.
I know sometimes I hesitate to talk about population numbers and trends like that because people can really nod off unless you really enjoy that stuff. The idea behind that is we want to build a community that more people want to be here in. That's the simple answer there. And you know, when we talk about silos, one of those things is openness, more transparency, more availability of opportunities just like this, that you can see the city council meetings, you can see the board of works meetings, you can maybe not even have to get off your couch, but you can be involved in city government by watching a video of those events. If you want to talk a little bit about that, then we'll go on.
Yeah, one of the things that we need to be really better at is openness and the ability for people to see what happens in city government. Because sometimes people really don't understand what happens in city government or haven't even been at a meeting to know what happens. And what we want to see is we want to see these videos, video city council, then we store it, we put it on the website, so hey, here's what happened in city council day. I can click, I can go see here, I can see who said what, and we can have a focus there. Because we live busy lives. All right, we do a lot of things. There's a lot of things going on. Like I know today, I've got a couple things after this I gotta get to, and we're all like that. We've got things going on all the time. So the key things that we have to remember is how do we make it easier for people to access the city council? Being able to broadcast meetings would be great. Archiving those meetings so you're able to see those all the time. Fantastic. Another thing that I'm very big on is a question-focused, question-oriented council. One of the things that people are really uncomfortable with when you come to council is getting up and speaking or asking questions, or even the council itself answering those questions. The thing that we have to do is you got to change the whole makeup of the way council is and the way the council meeting runs. Everything should be focused on the discussion that we have amongst each other, amongst the people, with the mayor, with the departments. That's got to be the key thing. We've got to be able to have open discussion. So one of the things that I've really kind of talked about is you start off the meeting with, are there any questions from what's going on in the city right now or a past meeting? You talk about those right now. You go, people in the crowd would talk, the mayor would have any questions, any member of the council. Then you get to your regular docket. If you've got an ordinance that you have, then you say, all right, any questions about the ordinance? All right. Then you ask the public, is there any questions that you would have about the ordinance? You do that with everyone. Now, is that going to change things immediately? Of course not, because that's not the way things have been run now. So now, once you start opening that and people feel more comfortable, you're going to get more people there. And people are going to feel more willing to ask questions. Another thing, too, at the end, you finish it with, does anyone have any questions now? Maybe I said something that I need to elaborate on. Or maybe I, on the council, have a question of another one of my members on the council. Heaven forbid, maybe the media wants to ask us publicly what we said. And we have to be able to say it in front of everybody like we should. Like there's going to be some times that Mark and I will disagree on something. We've disagreed on stuff before, but guess what? We're cordial about it. We get along. Because we know in the end, we both have the best interest for the city at hand. So the thing is, we've got to be able to have these discussions with each other. And that's why I call it kind of a question-focused council. Because that's what's going to drive where we go. The more input that we can get, the better understanding that we can have on issues. The better understanding we can have on issues, the better we can attack those problems and find better solutions. And that's, I mean, that is something that I've been preaching basically since day one. Is we've got to be more willing to take these questions. Sometimes they're tough. Sometimes you don't like answering the questions. Sometimes you might know it. There's nothing wrong with not knowing an answer. All it means is I've got to do a little research. I've got to ask more questions. I've got to go to the department to get the answer. And I know that's a big focal point. And when it gets to openness too, Mark's really got a good idea when we talk about a big board of projects. And I think this is something that he really likes.
So on Facebook Live, you're allowed to ask questions, but one of the people watching on Facebook Live just texted me, which just asked the question on Facebook Live. But one of those things was that very silly, what would you do in the first 100 days of being on council? And I'll just take it first and let you guys think about what you do. I know you've been on council for a little bit. One of those things is that we've learned a lot from these community conversations, whether there have been questions or not. One of the things that we have learned is, one, accountability. We want to hold the council a little more accountable to what's going on, and whether that is going to, council appoints board members to various boards around here, whether it's utility service board, whether it's RDC, whether it's just board after board that the council has members of, but they're really not getting reports for those. So holding one, their appointees more accountable so the public knows what's going on. Two, holding themselves accountable. And how I would do that, it sounds silly, but I really believe in this, is that have a top 10 list of what you want to see done in the city of Vincennes. Literally write it out. Put it in City Hall for everyone who comes to the meetings so they can look and see what is your top 10 goals for the city of Vincennes going forward. When you finish one of those goals, you cross it off and you add a new goal on there. But the idea behind that is so when people come to City Hall, or if they're watching on Facebook Live, they know what we want to accomplish as a city. It's not management by crisis, it's management by goals. And you have a set of goals that you want to do, whether that is better public safety, raising the pay for firemen and policemen, whether it's better insurance for the people that work there, whether it's fixing a pothole over on 7th Street. Whatever that is, that goal is up there, and your job as a council member and as the mayor should be to finish off those goals and find some more. There's always something to do in the city of Vincennes. And that way, I believe we're held more accountable at that point.
What happens when you finish a goal on board?
cross it off.
Cross it off.
Add
Yeah.
something else on there. You know? So what would you do in the first 100 days? You and John.
John, do you want to go?
I don't think you can do a lot in 100 days, but I do have some goals. And might not be able to get them completed in 100 days, but you know, I'd love to work on the infrastructure in this city, work on some bad roads, and I've driven these roads for a long time. I know which ones are bad and need repair. I've got some ideas that need to be done as far as sidewalks, putting in places where there's no sidewalks, streets being repaired. Also, I'd like to clean up some of the neighborhoods, get some more houses tore down, get people interested in investing in their homes, getting them fixed up, and that sort of thing. I would also I'd like to work on you know, working on the employee situation. As far as when I retired, I retired with a good pension. And some of these guys have to stay around a long time, and I'd like to help them with maybe their insurance. It's not necessary, but it would help some of these officers retire, you know, at a decent age. But as far as the city goes, it's in really fair shape, and some of the infrastructure, I really need to dwell on that, because that's one of the things you need. The city just needs kind of a little bit of a facelift. It's a great community with a lot of assets.
All right, so I mean, this won't come as a surprise, but the big things that I think we really need to go get to: openness, access, transparency. Now you're probably like, oh, he keeps hitting these things. This is really important, and this is really big. In the first 100 days, it does take time to be able to kind of move funds around, set up projects. I mean, those are heavy lifts. But the things that we can do, and you can do quickly, is you can change the way that council is run. You can change where council is. You can change how council contacts people. The focus that I want to see happen is a council that goes out into the community instead of the community that comes to the council. We've got to be out there with everybody. We've got to be willing to ask questions. We've got to get in our districts, get in our areas, and listen. I mean, sometimes that's hard. Like, I mean, obviously I like to talk. Shouldn't come as a surprise, but you've got to sit back and you've got to listen. You've got to hear what people have to say. Those different perspectives mean everything, because I might look at a problem and be like, well, here's the problem. They're looking at it from the other angle, and they're like, no. The problem's over here. And now I've got a better perspective of how to answer this. Now, the question that I would have, just like I said before, we need to be more question focused. We need to encourage more discussion. People shouldn't come to council and be afraid to approach people because a decision they feel has already been made. All right, stuff needs to not happen behind the scenes. Everything needs to be out in the open. Is that going to be awkward? Yep, it's going to be awkward for us sitting up there because we've got to make decisions. But those need to be done. It's okay to be a little awkward. It's okay to feel like, man, here's my opinion. I'm going to back it up, but I feel a little odd. That happens. That's good. That means you care. All right, that means you care about what other people think. We've got to be willing to do that. We have to be willing to go out, not just for just events. We've got to be willing to go out and help the community and be there and talk with everybody. Those are the key things. That's how you kind of keep everything in the loop. That's how you know what's going on in those areas. I've been blessed that I'm in a position at work where I get to bounce around from district to district, and I get to see these different things, and I get to see different groups of people and get different questions every day. And it's nice, people recognize me, like, hey, you're on the council. Hey, we have this issue over here. Can you take a look at this? I mean, just for example, today somebody asked me if I could go look at their ditch. I had a drainage issue. Can you just go look at this hole and see what's going on? Yeah, I'll go look at it. I hope it's not a joke, like there's some animal or something down there. But I go look in the hole to see, like, all right, I'll take a look at it. I'm not an expert, but I'll see what I can do, and then I'll ask the people that actually know what's going on in this area to be able to take care of those things. We have to be willing to do those things. And those are things that you can do immediately. All right, that's something that's just effort. That's just something about wanting to be there. That's something about just being a part of the community. Those are things I can do immediately. But the things that we really need to focus on, infrastructure is big. I mean, Mark started off with, we need a walk-friendly community. Well, think about it. We have a lot of people that walk to work. We have a lot of people that walk and jog for exercise. We have a very dog-friendly community, and they love to walk their pets, like especially big, hairy machines. And people
Two-
like to be.
two just went by a while ago.
And people really, really do like to be able to do that. If you have better sidewalks, guess what? People are going to be more enticed to do that. Maybe a family comes by and like, man, this is a really, really nice community. People drive through like, look at this. Everybody's out and about enjoying themselves. Those are things you have to be able to do. And one of the programs that we've had, and I know Councilman Grove and I have been big on trying to keep putting more money in that, is the Sidewalk Match Program, where you could, hey, I'm going to fix the sidewalk out in front of my house. I need to be able to match that. And the city will match half of that so that you get that taken care of. And if you look around, especially in kind of the older parts of downtown Vincent, we've got old trees that have really torn up some of our sidewalks. If you come out in District 5, where I'm at, we have no sidewalks. And that becomes a problem, because one of the things is too, it would have been 2 or 3 community conversations ago, had families were like, we'd love for our kids to walk to school, there's no sidewalks. We would love kids to walk to school, but you're right, there are no sidewalks. So you can't have kids do that in those areas when they're even right next to a school. So sidewalks are really important. Infrastructure, as John hit on, that's really important. I always kind of use the analogy that infrastructure is like the arteries and the veins. I go, if they're clear and they're running good, guess what? You've got a healthy city. If they're not, then we got some problems. If it's hard to get in and out of the city, who wants to invest in that? What businesses want to go in there? What families want to build houses in there? Because like, that's just frustrating. And while we do have some issues with infrastructure, look at some of the cities around us that are really struggling. And we've made some really good investments recently on improving a lot of the roads. Do a lot more need to be taken care of? Of course, there's 88 miles of road in the city of Vincennes. 88. That's a lot. And they need to be taken care of. And you improve like little things like that. Those are the things, like I always say, it's not the sexy thing to do, but it's the right thing to do. Like those are the things you have to take care of. And it's like, oh, a road's done. Are you gonna see like everybody clapping and excited? No, it should be done. That's what's supposed to be done. So those are things that you've really got to put high on the priority list, because you do that and then it opens up everything to more investment, more engagement, and that's what we want to see throughout our community. I'm sorry, I got on my infrastructure spiel.
Infrastructure is important to this community. Fire away. Yes.
Got a couple different questions. I'd like to start with John, Mark, and then yourself, Tim, just because you're an active city council member as it is.
Okay.
First question I have is, what makes you guys, or what made you make the decision to run for city council? I mean, I know, John, you've ran a couple times in the past.
One other time. Correct.
One other time, okay. Well, you ran once in the past before. Tim, obviously, you've already served. You're in your second term right now.
I've never ran for office
You've
before.
never ran yet. But what made you guys make that decision to run?
You want me to go first?
Sure.
Well, I lived here all my life, and I've seen all these great assets this city has, and the great people that live here, and I just feel like that something's missing, and some of the other people that's not Tim, but some of the other people that's in the city council, I feel like they're just missing that one thing, and maybe some fresh minds and some fresh blood in on the city council would stir some things up, and maybe just get that one thing that's missing for this community. But I just feel like there's just more potential for Vincennes than what's been going on with all the assets that we have.
I can give you a whole laundry list, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do a very simple one. She's sitting in the audience. I have an 8-year-old girl, and I want this community to be better for her. You can do that a number of ways. One, improve the schools. That's important. You asked why we decided to run. One, for her. Two, let's talk about this. I live here too. I want to make this community better while I'm here. And if I'm lucky enough to leave it better for the next person, awesome. Yeah, we as a community sometimes, I think, aren't selfish enough. Let's just be honest. We should want good things for ourselves. We deserve those. I mean, we live here, we work here. If you're lucky enough, you get to play here. And hopefully you don't die here tomorrow. But I really do. It's just about making it better for ourselves. And I think at times, the current environment we have ignores issues that would make our community better. And that's one of those real reasons why I'm running.
One of the big reasons that I'm running, she's sitting right here too. No.
I didn't blow that. That was fun.
One of the big things
Sorry.
I've been blessed. I've had two parents that really show a heart of service, and that's been instilled not just in me, but that's been instilled in my brothers and in my family. I mean, it's part of who we are. We see needs, and how do we go and address those needs? We might not even have an answer, but that's, hey, there's a need here. We're going to figure something out, and that's where we're going to go. I always had a passion for government. That's one of the areas that I studied in college. I taught it for a while. And I was like, man, got a hard service, government, this is going to be a piece of cake. I'll just teach government, and I'll go into government. But surprisingly, being in government and teaching government are two vastly different things. But it's that passion for community. Mark hit on a lot of things. Like, this is my home. And I'm really blessed. I mean, my middle brother lives here still. My younger brother's still pretty close. My parents are here. My grandparents are here. My other grandparents are moving here. My whole family, my whole core is here. I mean, this is my world. And who doesn't want that to be that little slice of heaven that you have, just to be like a little bit better? You know, I work here. These schools are extremely important to me. The sporting teams, they're really important to me. Like the football program, obviously, is a big thing that's important to my family. But not just that, but think about, you know, Thursday church. That's a huge part of my life. It's all here. It's all right here. And to see all the good that's happening, and see everything that we can affect, and just give some of your time, give some of your energy, and look at the great things that can happen. You get addicted to that, and you want better, not just for you, not just for your family. Because I mean, I want my kids to stay here, all crazy bunch of them. I want them to have their kids here. I want them to live here and have the same kind of memories that I have, the same kind of, you know, just things that I look back on. I'm like, man, that was awesome. That was great. It still is. I want them to be able to go to the same things that I do, the same things that I did, enjoy the same things that I did. But not just me. I want that for my neighbors. I want that for my neighborhood and the friends that I still have here. I mean, Vincent's is it for me. I mean, I love it here, and I always have. And so it's just, this is what it is, and I want it to be better.
Tim, I and John chose to live here. I could have, at some point in my life, I could have left, got a job somewhere else. I chose not to. I hope that through being on council, if I'm lucky enough to be elected, that I would provide an opportunity for my daughter not just to live here, but to choose to live here. There's a big difference in my mind. We're versus being stuck here. But I want her to go and get an education and come back and choose to live in a community like this. And to do that, I think that there are things that are going to have to change. We're going to have to evolve as a community to continue to attract your kids, to attract Vivian here, to attract and keep them and let them choose here. And currently, the path that we're on, I don't know if those choices are being made correctly. And so that's one of those reasons. Just live here.
Here's another point I'd like to make. I've served this community all of my adult life. I started in high school, my senior year, coaching basketball to Y, youth basketball. I coached youth basketball and track at Eagle School as a Cub Scout, Boy Scout leader. I policeman for 34 years. I was a member of the National Guard unit here in town for several years. I also precinct committeeman for several years. Actually, up in Tim's district, precinct up in Tim's district, and also I'm on the Vincent City Cemetery Board. And you know, I just want to continue to serve my community because I believe in it.
And one of the things I want to hit on, like Mark's like, we want people to choose to live here. The thing that we have to remember is the way that technology is advancing, it's easier to be able to go anywhere now and do anything. You can live anywhere and still have, you know, jobs in 80 different places because of the way that technology has advanced. I can stay at home and work from home. So now I have to create a community that people want to be in that community because you've got job access almost everywhere. The economy's great. There's a lot of great businesses out there. And you don't have to be set in a spot to have a job. You can be anywhere in the United States. So we have to be creative. We have to think outside the box. We have to do things completely differently than we've done before. Like the old setup before, it doesn't work. We can't sit back. We have to continually be asking questions, continually looking at trends, continually looking at ways to attract people to our city. Not just attract people to the city, but once they're here, how do we get them to stay? And it can't be something where you're just like, well, we did this, pat on the back, great job. Well, it doesn't work that way.
I'm going to jump on that one just real quick. One of those things that I think I get frustrated about is municipalities, development corporations, people over time, chambers, we're guilty of it, other places are. We do this really cool project and go, here, you should like this, without really taking the input from the public as much as we should. And getting input from the public is difficult, and it's hard, and it's difficult, and it's huge. It's a huge part of it. People don't show up to meetings. People don't want to answer surveys. People don't do those things.
But would you want to show up to a meeting if you felt that you weren't being listened to?
No, nobody goes to stuff they don't want to be listening to.
Exactly.
And that's the point with me being on the cemetery board. When I was president of the cemetery board, you know, we got some things done, and I listened to people. The butterfly walk memorial out there, it's a beautiful thing. These ladies came in and talked to them. They talked to the board. They had this idea for the butterfly memorial. I thought it was a great thing. Made a motion and asked unanimously. Right after that, we also got the veterans section set up. Any honorably discharged veteran, the DD 214, can get a free grave there in the veterans section. Just recently, we passed a motion to put up a monument for Knox County veterans. I feel like that's one of the last nice things we can do for them and their families. But these people came in with these ideas. I thought they were great, and we ran with them. I listen to people. I'm really compassionate people, and that was my job for 34 years, listen to people.
Question? You got a question again, sir?
Yeah, I have another question. Kind of piggyback off that one, kind of go off of the question that you received yourself, Mark, with the 100 days. What is your number one thing that each of you want to change or attempt to change if you're elected during your first term, we'll say? If you can only pick one item for this community, whether it's specifically with your third district, John, or whether it's as a city as a whole, if there's something you can do to change Vincent's and make it better, what would that be?
Good question.
Fire away.
That's a good one.
I'll go. I think improving the housing operation or the housing opportunities in our community. That, as much as the city council can have influence over increasing the job base, we have good jobs, but increasing that pay that's at our jobs, I think that's important. If we could see increased housing and the overall wage in our community come up in that first 4 years, those are long-term things, but those can be done. I think that I would consider it a job well done. Piggyback that on with a lot more input from the community as a whole, and a lot more openness to the public about the decision-making process that's being done behind the scenes.
All right, so obviously it'll kind of piggyback off the top of 100 days, the things that I have. When you open things up, when you're more transparent, when you're more accountable to things, it means people are more willing to come to you on things. Now, you've got to create an environment. You've got to create an environment over that time where people are like, this is the place that I want to be, this is where I want to live, this is where I want to open my business, this is where I want to invest. And you have to be able to build these relationships. That takes time. That's not something that happens overnight. I need to be able to trust the person I'm working with. I need to know that they're going to be willing to listen. Right? When you first put some people on a council, maybe you don't have those relationships. I've been lucky enough to kind of build up those relationships over time. So if somebody does come contact me, they know that I'm going to look into it, and know I'm going to get answers. I know they might not like the answers, but I'm going to get the answers for them that they need. So over that 4-year period, we need to change the complete environment. We need that openness, that accountability, that transparency. I know I keep hitting on that, but when you do that, then people want to be here. Then people want to live here. People want to invest here. How can we measure that? You measure that by population statistics. Do we have more people coming in than leaving? Do we have people staying? Do we have families growing? Do we have more people going to our schools? Do we have more business investment? Do we see more businesses going up on Main Street, on Hart Street, on Willow Street? Those are things that you can actively count for. Because for us, like in the end, we don't create the jobs. We don't create the businesses. We create an environment that people want to be a part of. Like I look at Vincennes, I want to be a part of that. There's something special going on there. That's what we have to continue to look for every day, because things are constantly changing. People's wants, people's needs, their desires, they change. And something that might be working real well right now, hey, maybe in 6 months it doesn't. Maybe in 10 years it still is. We don't know, because that's the way the economy works. That's the way that people's mindset works.
A willingness to be more flexible.
That flexibility is huge. Like, because you might have a great idea and it might work. You're like, this is great. Now let's do that same thing. Let's do it here. So let's say something works on Main Street. Let's try it on Hart Street. Might not work. Let's try it on Willow. Might not work. You've got to be able to be flexible. You've got to be able to listen. When you create that environment where we're all kind of going back and forth and not being stubborn about certain things, we actually listen, we trust each other. Because in the end, I mean, most people in here want what's best for Vincennes. And we've got to be able to know that when I go to them, that they want that too. And sometimes I feel they don't feel like they're getting answered. They don't feel like they're being listened to. And sometimes they just feel like they're forgotten. And we've got to stop that.
The one thing I'd like to do for Vincennes is actually bring in a company, maybe high tech, maybe some $1 billion company, want to invest in Vincennes. I'd love to bring in a company that has a high salary rate. I don't think it's going to hurt any other businesses or factories here. They have their employees, but I think a high tech job would bring the salary base up in this community. We missed a boat on Toyota. Look what Toyota's done for Princeton. If we got a big company like that to come to Vincennes, I think it would make a world of difference. And I think that bring a lot of people into Vincennes too.
So, do we have any other questions here?
The deal on First Street with the silos.
Sure.
Has Andy heard anything? Because he's had to go through a lot of loopholes with the state. Because somebody put that on historic. That grain silo is not historic. So he's had to go through a bunch of loopholes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shane.
Has he heard anything about when he might be able to get started tearing it down?
I think the tentative time is September. Does that sound right? But everything's kind of up in the air, so it could be October.
He keeps checking off boxes, and they keep giving him new things.
Yeah, I mean, he keeps doing absolutely everything they ask for, and they keep, here's a new thing to go through. So I mean, what happens at this point? Everything's ready. He's just going through each step that they bring through. Right. So I mean, they're doing their job. So I mean, whenever we get those checked, or whenever he gets those checked, then it's going to be full bore.
It should have been fairly simple for the state to come down, look at it, and say, well, that wasn't built 150 years ago. It's not.
Right.
What's historic about a grain silo? We got them everywhere. But
It is Indiana.
yeah.
We have grain silos. Any other questions? I think my daughter is really getting hungry over there, so I have to go feed her. And thank you, one, for attending. Two, thank you for watching on Facebook. John, do you have another question? You can fire away.
You keep talking about transparency. Right now, the city council is not live on Facebook or anything. TV station there?
The radio's there.
Radio and the Sun commercial, yeah.
WTUV's there a lot of times.
So local media
I
is
think it would be great
normally
to be
there.
on Facebook. If people can see it. You can listen to radio and hear a song that's great. But I like to watch that video and see, I like to look on that guy's face or lady's face when she's talking, because I want to see the expression.
And that's a simple setup. Like, I mean, we could buy equipment extremely cheap. Technology's gotten so much better where we could set things up, and boom, you would even get video of the council as a whole, the people that would be asking the questions, so you get kind of a dual perspective. And you're right, we need something like that to be able to, because we live in such a high-paced world. Like, hey, I'm at a meeting or something. How easy would it be for me? Oh, there was a city council meeting tonight. I can pull up my phone and look, there it is.
Yeah.
Or, hey, I missed it and I see it through a feed. Boom, there everything is. So I'm 100% behind in investing in that to be able to make sure that those meetings are broadcast to as many people as possible.
What
I
I
think it's a
also,
good idea. Us three are on the same page with
what I also like about that is that it kind of slows down or stops rumors.
Yeah.
So
Amen.
if it
Yeah.
gives an opportunity for people to actually go view it themselves, they can take that in and they can be educated in whatever problem or whatever issue is before city council, make their own determination, not have to listen to something somebody else said 4 times ago that really was never at the meeting. It gives them an opportunity to be at the meeting themselves. I think it nips that stuff. It just cuts it right off. I almost said nip it in the bud. So, but it does. It takes it right off.
I see you got your sidewalk ready for Washington Community Center
Yeah.
out in the Great Park. Saw that board. I don't know who did it.
We have a good partnership between the city and the school to be able to provide easy access as our kids get to school. So that's one of the things too that's great about this community. If you just ask and you talk between entities, they're willing to work with each other because they want what's best for the community.
So,
I think a sidewalk's still gonna be good for the community because a lot of people park in the park whenever they go to the football game and they can use that.
It's
instead of
another
walking
good
in the
sidewalk
mud.
to walk on,
Yeah.
instead of walking through the wet
Right,
grass.
so
Yeah.
it's a good idea.
certainly a lot more handicapped accessible that way.
Yes.
Really,
So,
that's true.
again, as we're going to wrap this up, we've been on here for an hour. We appreciate you viewing. If this video will be posted on my Facebook page, I know it'll be on Tim's and it'll be on John's. You can go back in there and ask questions later.
Yeah,
So if
we'll
you
see
view
it.
this, if you're viewing this even 4 or 5 hours or 4 or 5 days later, ask a question under there. We'll see it. And I will do my best to answer it as quickly as possible. And I'll give you my honest answer there every time.
And another thing you need to remember, if you see us out and about, stop us, ask us questions, talk to us. Go to our political pages, go to our personal pages. I mean, feel free to contact us anytime, any way.
I have signs.
And Mark finally has signs.
I finally have signs.
I'm so proud of him.
Finally have signs. I
Enjoying
will
the
have
club.
those. I will have those tomorrow. And if you want a sign, just send me a message or something. I hope I have enough.
Or you could do this, Mark, I would like a sign. Can you give me one?
Yes.
All right,
I don't-
see
I don't
how
have
easy
them.
that was?
I'll have them tomorrow. So.
And another thing, our next community conversation is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be the last Tuesday in August. I think that's the 27th. Mark, can you look that up real quick for me? But the last Tuesday in August, we're going to do it on Main Street outside of Thursday Church. Kind of a different set. I mean, there's a really big energy on Main Street. There's a lot of things that are exciting. So August 27th on Main Street, right outside Thursday Church. We're just going to pull some chairs out. We're going to have 2 special guests. Ryan Lau and Kathy Lane are going to join us for that community conversation. So we're really excited for that. And then that one, we've even got another special announcement for the next September
Oh, yeah, that'd be
community
fun.
conversation, but
That'd be
we'll
fun.
hold on to that one.
John, can you make sure you give them your contact information, how they get a hold of you, when you're going to be, if they want a sign, if they want a shirt, whatever they want?
Yeah, I've got an open Facebook page for my election, for my campaign. It's Vote John Stangl. You can get on there. I have a telephone number on there. You can call me. I got my email on there. You can email me, or you can just message me through that Facebook page.
So before we go, I am going to do something I said I was going to do and forgot to do. I want the League of Women Voters, I'm looking at you, League of Women Voters, I want you to have a debate. I want you to invite the current council members and the ones running for office, and we'll sit down and we'll hash this out in front of everybody else. Let's see if we can get that done. Thanks.
Good luck with that. Thanks, Jen, for next.
Hey, John,